The special town meeting. I can start over. I call this meeting to order and our elected moderator is sick tonight and cannot make it. So I need to elect a temporary moderator just for this meeting. So I need somebody nominated to be the moderator.
I nominate Ed Moran.
Me too. Second. Do you want to do it or no?
I guess.
No, we have to vote. Okay, all in favor of Ed Moran, please raise your hand. You're it, Ed, sorry. Okay, and
I get almost.
yes, where are you going to?
Oh, yes.
You have been appointed as a temporary moderator for this town meeting on March 25th, 2025. You do your job to the best of your ability.
Sure.
Thank you. Try the best you can. All right.
No, I got stand up, I see.
Do you have a copy of the warrants?
First thing I gotta do, make sure any unregistered voters here, everybody registered,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Article 1. See the town of Whipple transfer of $50,000 to the state relations at the discretion of the select board, so with the finance committee for the purpose of funding the town costs to install a thermal heat pump in the town hall, or take under action. Take a motion on that.
I move. We accept.
Second. Any other motions?
I have a question.
I have a question.
Yes.
Paula King, 353 West Main Street. And I, realized that there are 10 artesian wells within a 400-foot radius of this building. And so, my concern is, has anyone researched the potential for damage to or disruption of the vital water supply in the area?
So, change the name, it's Peter Lapointe, 53 South Eagle Street. These wells do not extract water. All they do is allow for a coil that runs from the unit in the mechanical room to go down into ground. And
Down.
it goes down into a coil, and the coil makes contact with the earth, and it transfers the heat from the
Yes.
coil into the ground, or it extracts the heat from the coil, from the ground into the coil, depending upon whether we're cooling or heating. So there's no, the well is fairly a sinkhole, if you will, for us to
How
know.
deep?
It depends upon the need of the heat exchanger.
Which is the concern I have. The
Well,
depth.
except that it will not, there's no water being extracted.
You still
I'm not.
Yeah, is it a trench setup or is it a borehole?
Wait a minute.
It's a borehole. And after the hole is bored, it's capped. So that there's no water that comes out or goes in. And it just uses the contact of the coil in the ground to transfer the heat from to and from the soil. There's no use of water at all.
That
So,
wasn't my concern.
Go ahead. So that's.
My concern was the depth and what might be hit in drilling down with.
Vein for. Vein.
Yeah, I'm not sure what your concern is about the depth. Yeah. Say your name.
Dan Smith, 129 North Union. So this borehole they're gonna do, they fill it with a grout.
Right.
So it's actually going to just be a single pipe that goes down as a glycol loop. So this hole will be filled with a grout as if the hole never really existed.
Right.
You're just burying a pipe vertically. You can do a trench setup as well, which is not as deep, but you requires a bigger field. So any veins it might pass into, that whole pipe will be sealed for, keeping other veins from interfering.
The closed loop system. So there's no interference at all with groundwater. Yes, Paul.
Holly Ryan, 11 Windsor Ave. Could you tell us how wide this hole usually is?
Typically 8 inches.
8 inches.
Same as well.
And so if you think about it, pipe going in, a hollow pipe going into the ground, as deep as it needs to go, it's only 8 inches in diameter with a coil in it. If there's any water coming directly to the pipe, it'll just flow around it and keep going in the same direction. It's not gonna divert anybody's water from their wells.
I'm not worried about water coming. My concern isn't water coming out of the ground. It's what vein of water you may hit when you drill and put the coil into the ground and disturb.
Well, I don't think there's any disturbance because the casing goes in as you drill. So basically, it's just the hole. And if we get water or fog or whatever, the thing gets filled up. There's no interference with the groundwater. These things have been done all over the floor. So it's not a, if it were a problem, like, for example, like fracking, when they do fracking for one, where you disrupt the fissures of the rock, that would be an issue, but this is just a straightforward. And it should have zero impact on the fund.
Okay. Any other questions?
Question. Casing doesn't go to the bottom, it only goes to the bedrock.
It depends upon what they cover. Sometimes if they seal it off, and if the rock is a good enough seal, they'll use the rock, but then they have to build the thing gets grounded in place.
I know, but you grounding the bedrock.
That being true.
So Paul's concern could be that you grounding the fissures or something to the bedrock, disturbed chasing mud.
But if we're in the top of the bedrock. If we grab to the top,
If you go down 30 feet at bedrock, you seal the casing there, but you gotta ground to the bottom of the well, which means you're grounding into the bedrock. I don't know, I just figured this out from what I heard so far.
nothing,
One more question. Anybody else have questions? Sandy?
Sandy Moran, Oak Street. And I just have a comment to make. We're talking about spending $50,000 to put in this heating system. Which we have a heating system that warms the town hall enough for what we use it for, and we can only use this one room. Why are we spending $50,000 to put a new heating system in when we can't use the town hall, only a small portion of it?
well, because we're not actually spending $50,000.
We are just.
It's coming out of stabilization, but this
Still spend.
project is funded through multiple sources, and one of the sources is a 30% tax credit in the federal government. That is, except it's an IRS program that is valid for this tax year. So it's a law that's on the books, and if we file this year, then there's a 99% chance that we'll get it. There is always the 1% chance that our Tesla driving friend might have a different idea about it, but as it stands right now, anything that's happened in this tax year is gonna follow the tax law of this current fiscal year. And that's been borne out through multiple researches that we've done. But just to understand the funding, the total project cost for this project is projected to be $113,000. Out of that $113,000, we are getting $27,540 as a rebate from Eversource. We are getting $47,180 in a grant from the Green Communities, which we have been awarded. So those two mechanisms are in place. And the balance of that, without the benefit of the direct pay from the Internal Revenue Service, leaves us at about $37,000. And we're asking for 50 because the pricing that we have is almost a year old, and we expect there's gonna be some adjustment for inflation. So we have built in some contingency, but the expectation is that when we're done, the cost to the town will be around $9,471. But this transfer of funds gives us the ability to tell the contractor that we have the funds so we can pay it. And if we can't go out to bid if we can't honor the contract. So that's why we're asking for this transfer, so that we can put this into motion so we can do the work. And then as a result of this, we will no longer need to use heating oil to heat this building. We will have the ability, if we choose to in the summer, to run the system in reverse and have cooling. And the cost to run this thing is basically the same as running a fan because there's no compressor. So the operational costs are quite a bit less than it would be if it were an air source heat pump, for example. So we're gonna spend less money. And it's gonna be much more efficient.
Yeah, the one other thing I was gonna add is that eventually we're gonna face it upstairs. So we'll be able to use more than just this room. And it would be good to have a heating system that's going to be more flexible and less expensive if we're heating and cooling both rooms.
And this system, this is not just for the system itself. There's some rotted ductwork in the crawl space that we're gonna replace. And we're going to add some dampers to the system so that instead of our system of putting tape over the outlets upstairs, we can actually close the outstairs and have it open and closed by thermostat if there's a need. So it'll be much more efficient in terms of segregating the heat when we don't use the upstairs.
So that's Cynthia Poirier, 207 Winfield Road. So that's like zone heating, you can zone just have heat.
Yeah. She did.
I did.
So essentially what it allows us to do is to damper down the system, so we only heat this floor.
Okay.
And then if we use the upstairs, it will heat the entire building.
Any other questions?
Polly 11 Windsor Ave, I just have a comment that these systems also dehumidify. And, you can run that in place of air conditioning in the summer. And it'll cool temperatures by 10 degrees. So, that's really, on top of it being extremely energy efficient and over time, it will be a return on the 10,000 it's actually costing the town in terms of what we would have spent in oil.
Yeah.
It's makes life much more comfortable. And temperatures are only gonna get hotter, humidity is gonna get stronger. We may need a building like this as a place for emergency management if we have bad weather events. And we'll have a system that could actually regulate temperature very well and efficiently and inexpensively.
Yes, ma'am.
One behind. Full question.
Yeah.
As the street. The other benefit would be that it would be quiet in here, we're having meetings.
That's true, then the operational price will be much less.
Yeah, Dan Smith, 129 North Union. What's the ROI on it? and we extrapolated our heating. And, well, there is no cooling, so we've never had to pay for that before. What is the return on investment? How long is it gonna take us to get money back?
Well, if we're talking about $9,471, it will be just a couple of years. I'm not sure what we pay annually. Paula, you may have a sense of what we pay annually for oil here.
It's not an awful lot.
Well,
It's not,
please,
we haven't used that much this year, maybe $700.
Ellen Dupont, 91 North Street. You say $9,000, that's if we get all the grants, and you know who's president now. So, with that. Do you know anybody that has this geothermal thing?
The Soldiers Home has it.
The whole town of Greenfield has it.
Yeah, okay, Greenfield, do you know somebody personally that knows how it's heating their homes?
All of Smith College is run by geothermal.
Well, not yet.
Those are the places.
You know, people who install them, they're very complicated, and hopefully you get the right installer, because if it's not done right and your heat loading isn't correct, it will be a lot more than a fan. You'll be heating with electricity. And depending on your temperatures and your insulation of your buildings, they work great for brand new buildings. They work great, but for existing older buildings, you have to have a very heavily loaded system. You might have multiple boreholes and handle that kind of heat loading required to maintain something that's not well insulated. So there are complexities there.
well, it's,
Thank you.
One more question,
sure.
Candace.
Roberta Woolbridge on One Pleasant Street. So, not to be a downer on this, but Paula does have a point. That is actually a possibility that during the bore process in particular, the disturbances can cause disruption, especially in the shale geology, which we are probably more likely to encounter here than say clay. So I would agree that for all the savings we might have, and I think the idea of the system sounds great. I mean, geothermal does sound like it has a lot of benefits long-term, but the electricity usage is a big deal. But I do think that we need to consider the potential cost of if there is some disruption to wells, that we consider if there's anything in place to protect those wells, or at least some kind of writing from whoever's gonna do the boring, that they understand what kind of distances, because the other potential, you're talking about putting like an antifreeze type product, a glycol, and if there's ever a breach in that, then that can also leak in those groundwater. So, I mean, there is the potential, that is actually a possibility, so. You know.
Something's on the screen.
Who's on Smith?
Well, they can't vote.
But they can drink
Take comment.
They put their hands up if they want to comment.
Like that's what, sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, relative to the insulation, we put in a 12-inch cap on this building, insulated the second floor for the very first time, because it hadn't been insulated using other green communities money. The first floor is insulated. We did crawl space upgrades, foamed in insulation all around crawl space and sealed the sill. So our energy footprint for the building has already gone way down from what it was before. So, and that's the only reason why we're considering this change now. And one of the reasons why we're considering it in particular is the fact that our oil tank is outside. And when it gets really cold, that oil has a hard time flowing to the oil furnace, and we've had times when it hasn't worked very well. So getting rid of what is the disturbance every time we have a meeting when the thing fires on and off, and getting rid of the oil tank on the outside is a really important consideration for the or how this building gets used going forward in the future.
You have questions?
This is a personal comment. Personally, I'm on the horns of the development with this project.
You're on what? Sorry.
Horns of the development.
Oh,
On the one hand, I have great confidence in the work of Peter And also Conrad Liebenau, who's not here, who worked on the project. They've done a lot of work and got the town where they are today. But on the other hand, he's an engineer working for municipalities for 45 years. I see some questions, it raises some questions with the project. What does project cost? I think, in talking with Conrad, they received a quote from a HVAC contractor for proposal. Last October for $105,000. Getting this project can be quite complicated to conform to the public bidding laws in the Commonwealth, which are quite complicated. I'm not quite sure which ones they fall under. I think Peter will agree with me, there could be some difficulties there. The funding sources, I think, can be questioned to some degree. They got to how much you believe in, well, federal government or the IRS. State government has on file that they will commit $47,180. And Eversource has.
27.5.
Made a commitment, excuse me?
27.5 for Eversource.
24.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not getting to that.
sorry.
Eversource of 24,000. I'm just afraid we're gonna be coming back here. Well, first of all, let me say, in order to enter into a contract, the town has to certify to the available funds up front, which leads me to believe that we have to raise and appropriate the total cost of the project before we get reimbursement. So Peter and I disagree. That's a possibility. So I have concerns. But on the other hand, on the left, if we want to take advantage of this money and do this project, we have to take some risk. So what you have to determine in your own mind, I would think, is how much risk you might want to take advantage of these sources. Personally, I would agree with taking that risk at this time. Thank you.
You have questions? Roll call vote. Roll call vote, all, that 2/3. Vote stand up. And point, how to sit down. Whoever votes yes, stand up.
Says, yes, if you want it.
Yeah, stand up. Yeah, so I can know, sit, that's our second vote. Those.
It requires a 2/3 vote of the people in the room. So when he calls for a vote, if you support the warrant, stand up.
Okay.
And stay standing. And then if he has to count the number of people sitting, we'll ask all the people standing to sit and the people sitting to stand. So we can get an accurate count.
Oh, what you want to do is count off as you sit down.
Yeah.
Each one.
Oh,
and then we'll get the number.
You determine.
Yes. So we only have to have 15 people. We have more than that.
I'm gonna call a vote, you, yes, please stand. One, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Now, how many people do you have in the room?
Well, we're gonna find out when you see it now.
All people that vote no, understand. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, that you do both. Okay.
In 10 to 15.
Yeah, 25 votes.
We had a question from here virtually. Do our votes, it was also asked in the chat, will the folks on Zoom be counted?
The folks on Zoom can vote.
You have to be here in person.
That being person.
Okay, I appreciate you. Thank you.
It's 6 point, well, I mean, I don't have the one, I don't have decimal points to see.
25.
Just- I had to give point like this. 15 divided by 25.7. But it doesn't give me 25. I know, 25 is the total.
What's 2 words?
Well, okay.
Divided by 3, and then multiply.
Yeah, exactly. We need 16 and a half.
Yeah, if that's not law, I'm just.
You were rested. All right, so we didn't make it.
Fantastic. Next article, Article 2. See what town approved amount of $8,400 to use to fund an architectural feasible study for relocation of town officer to the lower level health memorials. Bills. From the assistant capital fund designated for miscellaneous exterior repairs to the police station and health, or take any action. Here.
So moved.
Second.
Has been approved in second. Any discussion?
Andy Moran from Bow Street. Has anybody checked to see if we even can do this? That building was given to the town as a gift for the library. And I'm not sure if it was to be kept to the library or if it can be used for another product, for another.
I believe there have been extensive conversations with the library about trading spaces between.
I haven't had that conversation. We had it on the, out on the steps one time, we had not had it at the library thing.
Give you a point. We actually met with you 2 years ago to talk about this possibility with the trustees. And it was based upon that I've tried to secure funding so we can actually do a study if it's feasible. And so, and I didn't proceed with it at all until we actually had that conversation, so you may not recall that meeting.
I don't recall that, no.
But in any event, the purpose of the study is to find out if we can do it, if it's feasible and what it might cost. And the reason why we want to do it is because currently, if anyone's been to the town offices lately, the facilities are pretty cramped. And it's pretty much impossible to have a confidential conversation with anyone that's a town employee or the building inspector or anyone else without it being part of the general conversation of the entire room. And so for the benefit of the staff, to give them a reasonable workspace, and if you've been in this space, it is, it has windows all around it. It has an accessible entrance. It is, we're gonna need to install bathrooms down there. We're gonna need to install a break area. We're probably gonna get a small meeting room out of it so that people, if small committees wanna meet, they can meet there instead of meeting in this building, for example. But the potential is for us to actually have a working office space that will make sense. And be more useful for the employees in the town.
Any other questions from anybody? Suggestions? Clark?
75 North Street. I'm an assessor, we meet in there quite often. And I believe rather than spending all this money to move it down, we should consider setting up a schedule. So each committee has their time and they have the place. so that you're not conflicting each other. I mean, this is a lot of money,
This is just the feasible.
so I'm thinking. Personally, I can't see why we need it, but that's just my personal.
This is just a study.
Yeah,
I know it's just the study, but the whole thing is,
It's gonna be very expensive when you get done with stuff.
yeah. So let's just nip the whole thing in the bud and just.
Alan,
Ellen DuPont, yeah, it's a lot of money for just for an architect to design, saying yes or no, it's feasible. You gotta think of the septic system too, you're down low. So you putting bathrooms down there. It does not go uphill, so then you might have to end up with a pump system and change that around.
Yeah,
yeah,
the plumbing goes all the way out through the basement now. There's an old school bathroom in that basement of that building. And the sewer lines go down through underneath the basement floor and out of the building.
So they never replaced any of that when they put the septic system in.
Correct. Well, they might have replaced the line, but it still all connects through that same level feed. So there's a new line that comes out of the bathrooms and goes underneath the addition, but it also connects to the septic system. And that's part of the evaluation, is to understand what it costs, so that we can go after the funding to make it happen. Because the piano on the foot is, if you go up there on any Thursday night and try to conduct business, it's impossible. It's nearly impossible. There's so many cross conversations, you can't even have a conversation. And there's nowhere for someone to go. And we want to have the office hours at a convenient time when everybody can be there, because otherwise we'll be having the building open all the time for individual office hours for 2 or 3 hours here.
Ryan, 11 Windsor Ave. We had the, Director of Rural Affairs
Yes,
come out here in, was it last August, I believe,
and Gobi.
and Gobi. And she talked about, she actually toured the town offices and the lower level and, saw what, discussed the plans that we had in mind, and she said that it's very likely through the rural,
Development grant or
development
something.
grant, that we can get the funds to fund this. I've also been doing a lot of grant research lately. I'm working on a municipal vulnerability grant for the highway department to get culverts bought for Route 116 when they do that job in FY 26. And I've looked at the one-stop grants, and we qualify to get the funding through that too. So, this is gonna be something that I hope to focus a lot of my time on now for the town of Plainsboro. And I'm pretty confident that we won't be spending the money. And that's part of the reason that I think it's worth having the feasibility study done, so that we can at least have a plan. We can't apply for the grant without that.
I would also say it's not just to create a space for committees to meet. I think it's also for the comfort, privacy, and sanity of the town staff. I mean, I don't think their working conditions are up to par. There are no private offices, there's no real space for private conversation, there's no storage space really around their offices, so they're having to put things in other places, and I think that it would help with our retention of staff if we had a better workspace for staff. And that one classroom is not enough for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, at least 9 staff people in one room. That is a very uncomfortable office configuration.
Polly again, 11 Windsor Ave. One other situation that's going on in the lower level too, that this grant would cover, is that we have one room down there that all of the town files and documents are stored in.
Yeah.
And it's moldy and wet. And, I was gonna volunteer to just start cutting files out of there, and town employees were gonna volunteer to sort through them and figure out what has to be kept and not kept. But in the process, we would do the remediation that's needed in that room to get the dampness out and the mold out. And set up a space where we can have files kept. And in a way that it's not what I witnessed, a box on the floor with all kinds of moldy papers in it.
Leila Madison, Office 197 Summit. Peter, could you describe what's in a feasibility study? It's $9,000. What does it entail?
Sure. So, it's gonna entail developing a architectural plan of the building to do a layout of where the offices might be located. It's going to involve doing a cost estimate of what the cost of construction might be. And so that the process of doing the study of the architectural layout and determining the scope of the work is the only way to get a handle on what the project would cost. And we can't go for funding for what something's gonna cost if we don't know what it costs. So this is the first step in being able to decide if it is worth it or not. And it's a small amount of an investment for what the potential returns would be.
Jeannie Sargent, 138 Pleasant Street. I pay a lot of attention to grants that are going to other towns in the hill towns. And I'm impressed by how much money has gone to Worthington, to Cummington, to Ashfield. And I always wonder, why is it that our town doesn't get any of this money? They're talking about millions of dollars. I mean, millions, 2 million to one town, Westfield, you know, you name it. And I think it's because we don't take, you have to spend all the money to make money. And if we're not willing to spend any money, if we can't begin to apply for grants and try to get money to come to our town. And I would love, for example, to see upstairs used, because I've gone up there, it's beautiful. And it's a great space, but we can't use it because we don't have a safe fire exit. So, you know, I personally would love to see us try to do some fundraising and be able to at least do something like that too. We just sit here and we worry about spending $8,000 that otherwise was already committed, I guess, to something to do on one of the buildings here or there. And why not make it the office space that we invest our money in at this time? So that's just my opinion.
Here, I'm gonna step down at the bottom and make some suggestions. The town should be looking for a place to build, off the parking, good septic system, and have a big enough room to have our town meetings. First floor. We spend millions of dollars before we get done. We try to do it, almost finished. Because we finished. Then should be starting on a piece of property lot. That's my opinion. I'm stepping back up, that's my. Okay. Any other suggestions? Well.
Catherine Johnson, I came, 218 West Hill. I came to a number of the, community planning forums. Peter, you were mostly in charge. But I mean, one thing that came up repeatedly is a meeting space that people, that's just easily accessible. So I wonder, is that gonna be figured into the study? An easily accessible meetings.
Freshman maybe.
Well, there is a meeting room scheduled, but I'm not sure. If it's town offices, it could be in public access space or, but most town building policy is that you have space. But. So that's policy, not necessarily something.
Thank you.
Any other questions before I vote? All in favor? Article 2. Raise
You
your
gonna
hand.
stand up again?
Raise your hand.
It's a simple majority.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What did I say the first time?
16.
16, 16. So passes.
It's gonna be a stream because it's two people shorter than the last one.
It's not two-thirds on this one, it's majority.
I didn't vote.
But it just, you recorded it.
Abstain.
Abstaining.
You're not voting.
Did anyone not vote positive or negative?
Yes.
Well,
Only
let's have another vote. All in favor? I'm gonna vote.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Why don't we stand up and make it so that.
It's just an new thing.
Five. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 17. There's two people.
And
Okay, all opposed, please stand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 25.
yeah, and you didn't vote. You didn't count yourself. Okay, we're good.
Wilson, can I make a motion?
I move we close the special town meeting.
All in favor? Good. Yes. Well.
I don't know who's hosting. I think it's Carol's. Yeah. I know.
Select board meeting order at 7:51. First is to approve the minutes of March 11, 2025.
I move we approve the minutes of March 11, 2025.
Your second.
Oh, I seconded it too.
All in favor? Board of Health, Alan Dupont, Jack Nelson, and Judy Locilo, sorry if I butchered your name, but from CMRK clothing with a conscience, discussion about placing clothing and shoe donation drop-off bins in Plainfield. Will attend the meeting via Zoom.
Good evening, guys. How are you?
Hi.
Hello.
So I guess the floor is yours, Judy, or yours, Ellen?
Or Jack.
Or Jack. Jack
Or
knows
Jack.
more about this than I do, because he handled the recycling part for us.
Sure, I could definitely speak on this. So what we do is our company takes textiles, clothing, shoes, fabrics. What we do is we offer the town 7 cents a pound on everything collected. With that, we also give quarterly tonnage reports as well as marketing materials so you guys can blast this out to your residents in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. I understand that sometimes with these towns, those other languages aren't needed, which is fine, but our program is geared towards the RDP grant. In 2020, the Mass DEP has implemented a textile ban, which means textiles are no longer being able to be thrown away unless they're wet, moldy, or soiled with, bodily fluids, blood contaminants of that nature. So with that being said, our program is designed so you can get the maximum rebate from the RDP grant. How we do that is we provide you tonnage reports every quarter, as well as payments for every quarter as well. At the end of the year, we'll give you an annual report. You would submit that over to the Mass DEP, and that in turn will provide you guys free grant money so you can use for infrastructure, anything else you might need in the town. There is no cost to the town. These bins are offered for free. We don't charge the town anything. We would provide you specific logos, and that's something we can coordinate down the line, but it would have the town seal and it would just say the proceeds would benefit the town. We would come and service your bins, as often as needed. We would start once a week, and then if they need more service than that, then we would ramp up.
Are there any downsides to this? I mean, I want to hear from Jack and Ellen about the space at the transfer stations. Is this something that you guys support or that you feel would be disruptive in some way? I mean, what do you think?
I don't see any downsides to it. The container is the same size as the Salvation Army container. And we get revenue from the clothing, which we don't get from Salvation Army. And it's coming once a week. I mean, that's fantastic. If they're willing to do that, we would have to provide them with a key. It's transfer station. They wouldn't have to keep contacting us. And the other thing is, the stuff really gets recycled. They don't just throw it away. That's part of what they do. And besides taking the textiles, they also collect other things like books. And we have a bunch of things in the swap shop, and then the staff there gathering dust. They're perfectly good. They'll take those too. So we have a way of helping with the recycling of lots of stuff. Question, yes.
Did you say it included shoes?
Yeah, shoes.
Good condition. They don't like Salvation Army. They took rags and all that stuff.
Well, they won't take rags. They just won't take dirty stuff.
Well, yeah, they're supposed to wash them anyway, yeah, or stain stuff, they said.
That's right. They won't take those things. So it's not like a trash barrel.
Yeah.
So.
You want to pass these? You want to pass them? Does anybody want to see the pictures?
So when we go through the shop, swap shop, a lot of times we end up throwing stuff away. So we can take the gooder stuff that people didn't want, put it in a box container. So when they come up, they'll take it, they'll weigh it, and they give it to people that need it. So it's like, instead of us throwing it away in the trash. So.
The other, I mean, if you want to really talk to someone who's already using it, talk to someone in Covington, the guy that runs the station, Bob, he's very enthusiastic about it. It's getting revenue for the town, doesn't cost the town anything, and they have a swap shop too with the same kind of problems we do, just too much stuff.
Yeah.
I have 4 of the yellow bins at my business and they're always full. I mean, they always come empty out our street,
Yeah.
drop stuff off all the time.
Yeah, it's good. It's great, great.
You guys vote on this? Or just?
No, you just have to, your approval from the select board.
Yeah, I'd say go for it. I mean, did anybody else have other comments?
That's a great idea.
Yeah. And it means you don't have to drive into Pittsfield or wherever can be Salvation Army, if you want to donate your old stuff, your leftover stuff.
On to the next thing. Thanks, Judy.
Thank you so much, guys. Have a great evening.
I think she has, meeting at two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just sign it.
Okay, it's just.
Just send me a copy.
Okay.
Police Department, Chief Litchfield, discussion on police chief contract.
Well, I emailed it to you guys and the select board and, wanted to look at it and see if the attorneys wanted to look at it and see if the town wants to go to a 3-year contract instead of a yearly appointment. And then you can make decisions on after 3 years, they want to continue a contract or not. So right now, the chief of police is appointed yearly and without cause. If they not reappoint me, they have to pay a year. So it's a win-win either for the town. So most police departments in Massachusetts are all running contracts now with chiefs. It gives the chiefs 3 years to do the job, and then they relook at it in 3 years, not yearly. So
I thought the contract I read, because you said it and I did read it, just for 5.
yeah, no, it's 3 years. So I got the contract. I worked with another police agency. We got it off Mass Chief's website. We took out stuff that was not, for town stuff, not city stuff. So we went through and did it. So that's why I wanted to bring it to the select board and see if that's something that they're interested in. So.
We will meet at some point, executive session, so. Hopefully soon.
I think it would be better if we negotiated the specific term for the executive. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up to the board, so officially, so letting me help get a look at it.
Yeah, we're just gonna figure out the time.
Okay.
Anything else? Any other questions?
I have a question. You all are now 2 select board members, is that correct? Delila Butler, Delila Madison, but Lord, that was my old name. Delila Madison, place 197 Summit. So y'all are 2 right now, I guess. Can you help us understand what the process is for you all to have a full select board again? What are you all doing for that?
Did you research the amount of time before we can actually?
We have to have a special caucus to fill her unfinished term, which is 2 years. It could not be on the caucus agenda the other night because it's not a legal posting.
When is the new caucus, the special caucus?
Well, I probably can schedule it in the next couple of weeks. I have to check with the Board of Elections and make sure that I am doing it in the right time frame. I am trying to find out if I can run 2 elections on May 3rd simultaneously. The regular annual town meeting and then a special election for this one position. We ran into this one other time when another member of the select board resigned. And we had a double election.
Yes, I was reading around on a government site and I thought, I have to double check, but I thought they said that after you hold the special town caucus, you have to wait 90 days before you can have a special town election. So that people who are nominated have enough time to get out the word and let people know that they want to do it and all that. So we
Yeah.
don't have that much time.
No, I don't think we have enough time to do it with, on the May 3rd date.
Right, okay, that's all I was saying.
So if, to answer your question, if I have to run a special election, probably will be shortly after the May 3rd annual election.
Well, it would be 90 days.
90 days, so
No, it could be earlier, if the caucus is earlier.
Well, yeah, it's gotta be 90 days from the caucus.
Right.
You hold the special election. So
Right. Couple of
So-
weeks or.
the least it would be is about, I don't know, it depends on when we have caucus.
Yeah.
The June or July.
So
I,
what
I
kind
think
of,
it's gonna be June or July before we hold the special election.
surely, but what kind of time is it between now and the caucus?
it goes to the date of the individual's resignation.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna double check tomorrow, but I think I probably can hold it just about any time now.
Which is needed, adequate notice so that people can.
Yeah, I will put it in the post, it'll be, I can put it on Facebook.
Because it's special, you might have to post 14 days instead of 7.
There
Yeah.
was, if
Yeah.
it's special, you might.
You're right, you're right. The normal caucus, you have to post it 7 days before the caucus. A special caucus, I think there is 14 days, so. I have to have, you have to do this right or you can get in a lot of trouble, so. I think it is 14 days, Andy.
Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
The Franklin Land Trust will sponsor its 20th annual self-guided recreational bike ride, Saturday, August 23rd, 2025. It's a fundraiser for the Franklin Land Trust. Just saying they're coming through town. Goes through Ashfield, Buckland, Charlemont, Coleraine, Conway, Cummington, Deerfield, Florida, Goshen, Greenfield, Holly, Heath, Leiden, Plainfield, Rose, Shelburne, Whately, and Williamsburg, and into Vermont. Just a
When's the date?
August 23rd, 2025.
Then there's,
Yeah.
So I'll talk to Mary's Warren, she's the director there of the Frank Nations. She said they're gonna be on the side roads, on 116, they don't need any police presence, it's just people riding their bicycles. So not like the road race that we have where we have to block intersections and stuff, this is just casual. Fundraising.
Any other questions? This letter, to the select board, as of April 30th, I am resigning from being the building's custodian. I am willing to show whoever is hired to take my place what the job requires. Thanks, Bonnie Phillips. Is that Phillips? I think so.
Yeah, that's all. Okay, well, we should accept with
April 30th.
and regret or resignation. And then I guess we can find somebody new.
Yep.
Who's responsible for that?
That would be I think, the select board. Tradition.
I
didn't know if it was buildings.
Buildings committee, do you hire the custodian? Peter?
We budget for it, we've never had our custodians, the bodies, the custodian, the town is funded.
Anything else? Today I went and completed the complete streets
Training.
sweat seminar training today over in West Hampton, so we have to apply for grants to do with that. We have someone that's been through the class,
And then,
I guess.
nice.
Moment, as long as sitting in the chair. Anybody got anything else?
Adjourned. Second.
All in favor?